Hello and welcome back to art class. Today we're going to do a new project that actually has to do with writing, specifically cursive. And to help you out with that, I have provided a sheet or a document. You'll have to look in your assignment for it. And it has everybody's name in the class written in cursive if you're not 100% sure how it should look. It is something that you will probably want to get a scratch piece of paper for and practice your name, writing in your name in cursive. Okay, so it's something that you just want to be able to practice a few times before we do this, because we're actually going to draw very large on this project. Okay, so the very first thing that I need us to do is you're going to need a few materials. You're going to need a pencil and an eraser. Okay. You're going to want a glue bottle. You're going to want some type of black marker. I got 3 here. It's just a skinny Visa V marker that'll work. Sharpie would work great. The Crayola, as long as the tip's not too flattened, like this one's pretty good. You can kind of see there. You can do this with colored pencil, but the colored pencil is going to transfer to the other side, and that could look not as nice as we want, but it is a possibility. I would probably avoid using crayon on this one. I don't think that'll end real well in the end look. So colored pencil marker is your best way to do this. Okay. All right, so and a ruler is going to be really handy just to make sure some lines are nice and straight. We really don't have a ton of measuring that has to be done. I'm just going to put that off to the side. All right, so the first thing we have to do is glue the 2 pieces of paper, because we actually need a really long piece of paper for this. Now the weird thing is, okay, I'm going to say that we need a long piece of paper, but it depends on your name. We are only doing a first name or last name, and you kind of need to pick the name that's longer than 3 letters, but shorter than, let's say, 8 letters. Well, you could probably get 9 or 10 letters, because this is going to be a little bit extra long. This is a little bit longer than I normally would use. Okay, so you're going to be kind of looking at your name, figuring out which is best. Some people I know have like a 4-letter name, like Lily, L-I-L-Y. That's a short name, but Lily is also spelled different ways. Just this is an example. So Lily would probably just fit on 1 piece of paper, so you may have to make that adjustment. But if your name was really long, like let's say like your name was Arnold Schwarzenegger, everybody knows that name, that he's a famous actor, and Schwarzenegger is really long to spell out. That may not fit on the piece of paper. So if your name is really long, or maybe you have a hyphenated name where you have 2 names together, you have to kind of think about, is it going to fit on the paper? Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to glue the 2 pieces of paper together. Use dots of glue. Okay. All right, so we're going to let that sit for about 20 minutes. Okay, so we'll come back, let this get completely dry, because we don't want to work on wet glue. Okay, and we're back. My paper has now dried, and I'm going to fold this now. This is the kind of tricky. We're going to fold this in half. Yes. Okay. And then you need to take your pencil. This is where a ruler kind of is handy, and it's not even for measuring, it's just to make sure that you draw this line nice and straight. You're going to use the fold for a center line. Like so. Make that first line a little bit darker. So really, I just needed a straight edge. I could actually use the side of an iPad, because the iPad cases are really straight to do that. The ruler's a little bit handier. Okay, so this is the center line. So we're going to have our name above here, and then we're going to put a reflection of the name on the bottom part. Now, in order to get the lettering looking good, we need a couple other lines here. Okay. And we're going to need to do a little bit of folding for this. So I need you to fold the top down to the center fold or center line, because they're now the same thing. Take your time to get it lined up. It's going to want to move on you. Okay, so you got this part that kind of curves up like this. What I need you to do next is very lightly, I'm going to push a little bit harder just so you can see it, but I want you to actually put a dotted line right down that new fold. So you have a straight line, looks good, and then you have a dotted line up here. Okay, now what we're going to be doing is we are trying to make this look exactly like one of those practice sheets from, well, on the document. If you look at the document, it looks a lot like the practice sheet. Think back to kindergarten, first grade, when you were practicing your letters. It's important that we get the spacing of the letters right. So capital letters go to the top. Most lowercase letters are only to the middle, unless it's a tall letter like a T or an L or a K. And a letter Y or G actually hang down below the line. Okay, so what you're going to do is, after you have taken your scrap piece of paper and practiced your name, figure out which one. So what I would do is pick your first name, write that out, pick your last name, write that one out, and see which one you're doing better with. And make sure you're going nice and slow. And then start to write it larger and larger on your practice piece of paper, because we're writing it super large here. Okay? So here's my example. I'm going to use my last name, Sanders. Okay? So I'm going to start over here. If you know that you won't use up all the space, okay, I know that Sanders will probably end like right about here. Typically that's about how far it takes. I don't have to start right on the edge, so if you need to scooch in a little bit, that's okay. Okay? It's going to be slow, so you make sure you hit your marks. Okay, so there's my letters. Even I have to go slow so I can remember I gotta hit this line, make sure it comes straight down. I have to make sure I'm thinking like, oh, my D has to go up into this area, okay? We don't wanna try to shrink the D to fit it down here. That won't look right. The D has to be tall in the capital areas, okay? What about like a letter that has the tail? So I'll give you a couple examples. So how about Y? Y is often looking like this. Okay, it loops up, comes down. I'll give you a complicated letter like Z. Okay. Z is just a weird letter in cursive. So they hang down. Make sure that you only go about halfway down when you hang down like this, okay? Then, once we have this, go back and double check, make sure your letters are spaced okay and you're not crowding anything. Take your time. Okay? Then you're gonna take your marker. I'm gonna use a Crayola because I think that's what most people probably have at home. But if you could, you use a Sharpie because it just has a nicer point to it. But I'm gonna use Crayola because I think that's what most people would have at home. And you're just going to, after you've checked your letters, please make sure you spelled your name correctly. I've had lots of people in the past who have accidentally, they're so focused on making sure their letters look good, they miss a letter in their own name. So double check your spelling too. then you're just going to trace very slowly, very neatly. Do you need to do extra letters? Absolutely not. Just do the letters in your name. I did these because I just needed to show you what a lowercase letter would look like as it hangs below the line. Okay. We'll deal with the next steps next week. So I need you to get a photo of this, of your name, not my name. Okay. And again, it could be first name or last name. If your first name, let's say your name was Ty. Ty is 2 letters. That's a little too short to do this assignment. So Ty would probably want to go with his last name. So, but if you're one of those poor people that has a really short first name and really long last name, you're probably better off going with the last name simply because it'll look better on the paper. A 2-letter project will only fit over here, and it's not going to look very interesting when we get done. So it's just one of those things that the longer is a little bit better to look at. Okay? It's just a little bit more work. Okay? And take a photo of yours, and I will see you next week.